Chapter 3 Homeboy. By the time Trino rested his tired black eyes on his family's white trailer house, the sun had melted into an old bruise on the horizon. The trailer park was noisy, with Tejano tunes crackling from somebody's radio, a lady yelling "Marilena" like a howling cat, and some kid crying between whacks of a belt. Cartoon music blasted through the torn screen of their trailer door as Trino opened it and walked inside. Gus, Beto, and Felix sat on the torn red rug in front of the TV, sharing a head of cabbage between them. Gus had to hold the white cabbage with both little hands in order to snag off a bite before Beto took it in his dirty fingers to gnaw off his piece. Then Felix would take it from Beto before his little brother got a second bite and shove his teeth into the layers of cabbage. They ate without taking their eyes away from the robot reptiles zapping at bad dudes with cardboard faces. The colorless cartoons swayed sideways and fuzzed out like fleas in the dirt. The TV had been a $20 bargain at the thrift store. "Hey, Torino, about time. Where the hell you been?" Garces lay on the faded brown sofa, his fat stomach pushing out the bottom of the Dallas Cowboys t-shirt he wore. He stared with red, swollen eyes at the TV as he took swigs off a can of beer. "I got busy," Trino said, then slammed his hand against the side of the TV, hoping it would clear the picture for his brothers. It did, just in time for a hamburger commercial to come on, reminding all of them that the boys were eating a cabbage. "You make any money today?" Garces asked, and burped loudly. Even if Trino had gotten lucky, he wouldn't tell Garces. Garces was a bum who needed to get off his fat butt and earn some money too. "How much did you make today?" Trino said, and made sure he blocked the fat man's view as he stepped behind his brothers. "No one picked me up." Garces waved his hairy arm. "Move, I can't see the TV." No man who needed some day labor would choose a fat drunk like Garces, or a kid like Trino either. Trino shook his head as he headed towards the kitchen area against the far wall. The sink was filled with dirty dishes. So were both sides of the plastic kitchen counter. Everywhere tiny brown ants helped themselves to spots of milk, crusty streaks of egg, and some brown crud that looked really gross. The cabinets were practically empty. No dishes in them, nothing but a can of coffee, a bag of cornmeal, and some cans with no labels. A black marker labeled them as 10-cent specials, but often when his mother had brought home these cans, no one liked to eat what was inside. In the small refrigerator, Trino saw a small plastic bottle of yellowish water and a half-gallon jug with a thin puddle of milk in it. In the drawers he found wilted lettuce, 2 carrots, a potato, and a plastic bag with stiff corn tortillas. On a shelf, behind a bread bag with a few slices in it, he found a bowl of beans. They were dried hard like a bowl of rocks. No wonder his brothers had grabbed the cabbage. Trino shut the door, biting on the inside of his mouth. He had never felt like he lived worse than the alley dogs until Garces moved in 2 months ago. Calling himself cousin, Garces gave his mother the line that the boys needed a man around, and he needed a place for just a week or so, until this big insurance check came in. "Then I'll share it with my Primo's family and we'll all eat like rich people." When no check had showed up, Garces said he'd start doing day labor, but if he made any money, it went to buy beer and maybe a stale chocolate bar that his little brothers had to split 3 ways. Lately, Garces helped himself to all the food, while Trino, Felix, and Beto were in school and Gus stayed at the neighbors. "Hey, don't be a hog," Felix yelled, just as he jerked the cabbage away from Beto. He put the cabbage under his t-shirt and said over his shoulder, "Trino, a guy was looking for you. He came here 3 times. "Dirty punk wanted to check inside," Garces said, growling from the sofa. He followed his statement with a line of cursing, and bragged that he told the guy off by saying he used to be a wrestler. Trino rubbed his hand down his face. "Rosca knows where I live. I'll never get away. Was it even safe to stay here tonight?" "I got my hands full. Somebody open the door," Trino's mother called loudly before he saw her juggling her purse and 2 shopping bags in her arms. The boys all jumped up at once, leaving the cabbage in the middle of the dirty rug. Felix pushed open the door, almost knocking their mother down. She barely got one foot inside when Beto and Gus started hanging onto her and begging for something from the bag. "Did you buy candy?" Gus asked, pulling out his mother's black purse. "Did you buy sodas?" Beto's fingers punched into the white bag, trying to feel out what was inside. Felix flicked a middle finger down on Beto's black head. "Let her get inside, stupid." "Stupid, why don't you take a bag and help her?" Trino said as he grabbed Gus's arm and Beto's shoulder, pulling his brothers away from his mother. He grabbed the bag that Beto had been after and shoved it into Felix's arms, then took the other one towards the table. He pushed away 2 empty cereal boxes, an empty cracker box, and more dirty dishes to find a spot for the bags on the wooden table that was surrounded by 4 mismatched metal chairs. "Ay, Dios mío, it's hot," his mother said to anybody listening. She put her purse on top of the refrigerator and came to where the boys surrounded the table. "Garces, did the mail come? Did you get anything?" She asked every day, and every day Garces said, "My check'll come mañana, prima. Then we'll eat like rich people." He was sitting upright now, and with a loud groan got up from the sofa, headed for the bathroom. Torino knew Garces left, so his mother wouldn't say anything to him for doing nothing around the house. Instead, she yelled at her sons for being lazy. Torino had heard it over and over many times in the past 2 months. "Aye, look at this place. None of you could run some soapy water on those dishes. None of you can throw a box away when it's empty. I work so hard and none of you can help." Her dark eyes stayed on Trino's face longer than the others. She didn't even wait for an answer before she slapped away Gus's hands, pinched Beto in the arm, and popped Felix in the back. Trino quickly walked around the table before she got him, too. He started grabbing empty boxes to throw away. She started unbuttoning the blue starched shirt over the black pants she wore to clean up motel rooms as she headed towards the back room. "I got a job tonight serving a wedding reception. Should give me the extra money I need for new shoes for Gus. Will you make us supper first?" Beto asked, his black eyes watery from his mother's painful pinch. "Of course, stupid," Felix said. "Why do you think she bought this stuff?" He shoved his brothers back to the TV. "Watch cartoons so Trino can clean the place up." "And you get your butt back here and start washing dishes," Trino said to Felix as the boys started to sit down by his brothers. Felix gave Trino a dirty look and got back up, but instead of coming over to the kitchen area, he ran his skinny body out the door. Normally, Trino would have run after Felix and slapped him till he cried like a Beto, but if Rosca was still in the area, it was best for Trino to stay inside. Felix probably knew it too, and that's why the lazy kid ran outside. "You stay home tonight and watch your brothers, hear me?" Trino's mother came back into the front room, snapping a faded pink house dress over herself. She had tied her black hair into a frizzy ponytail, which only showed more of her tired brown face. Lately, she looked older than Tia Sophia, her oldest sister, who was 50. "I got to be back at the hotel by 9. They said I could sleep in the storeroom tonight." She headed straight for the sink and turned on the faucet. She let the water run while she rummaged through the bag for a box of fideo and a can of milk. "I won't have to pay for a taxi that way. Torino, you make sure you stick around until I get home tomorrow." Torino didn't mind sticking close to home tonight. Only he had no idea if Rosca would come back. Then what? Send Garces after him? Rosca would slice Garces into menudo and then go after Trino. As his mother washed the dishes and cooked food, Torino killed ants with his thumb and wiped down the counter. Felix came back inside, only to have his mother hand him the full trash can and order him to the dumpster. Garces didn't come out of the bathroom until good smells of bacon, fideo, gorditas, and some beans led him right to the table. Even when Beto had needed to go, Garces had told him to go pee in a bush behind the trailer. Garces was scratching himself and burping along. He sat down on a chair that looked ready to collapse under his wide load. He sniffed loudly, laying his hands on the table, waiting to be served. Torino knew their mother would not eat as much because of the extra big mouth at the head of the table. As she set a plate down in front of Garces' sweaty body, Torino wondered again why she didn't tell that man to leave. Torino spooned up his food directly from the stove onto a plate, and went to sit at the other end of the table, since Garces often helped himself to the plate nearest him. "Felix, where you been so long with the trash can?" his mother said as the boy came back in. She was serving Gus his food on a tray in front of the TV. Felix dropped the plastic can by the stove and wiped his hands down his blue jeans. "I was talking to Nacho and Carla. Somebody robbed Mr. Epifanio." Trino had been spooning fideo into his mouth until his brother's announcement. Suddenly, he felt like someone had a rope around his throat and pulled it tight. "They beat him up with a pipe. Said it was 3 guys, Felix said, as his mother handed him a plate of food. He headed towards the couch, no doubt to keep his food out of Garce's reach, too. "Is Mr. Epifanio alive?" Their mother made a sign of the cross over her chest and shoulders. "They think so. Nacho said the police have been at Epifanio's place all day." "Where will we go to play video games?" Beto asked. He was sitting by Trino, but the metal chair was so low, all anybody could see was Beto's black hair and his eyes. He was tearing up a gordita and eating it piece by piece. Trino shrugged his shoulders, keeping his eyes down on the plate. Epifanio's store was just a hole in the wall. A few groceries, beer and sodas, and 4 video machines and a little room behind the ice machine. Trino didn't like the games much, but it was easy to shake them off their legs and get a few free games. Today, he had gotten a free game of Kuiper Killers, and had been close to getting the highest score. But Zipper and Rogelio had wanted to leave. He had waved them off, concentrating only on the fighting figures on the screen. No telling how long he played it until he realized the sounds of hitting and punching were coming from the front of the store, not the game. Trino ran from the room, stopping next to the freezer in time to see Rosca slamming a pipe down on old Epifanio's head. The gray-haired man was bleeding from his face and a gash across his chest. Rosca and Trino met eye to eye for a second, before Trino split from the freezer, heading for the door. All he had heard behind him was crashing glass as the front store window shattered. The bloody pipe had landed only inches from Trino's running feet. Trino had no idea what Rosca and his gang had been after at Mr. Epifanio's store. But now they were after Trino, and Trino had nowhere to hide. He had hidden in the bookstore today, but what would he do about tomorrow? "Trino, if you ain't gonna eat, give me your plato," Garces said loudly, his fat arm reaching across the table. From out of nowhere, a greasy fork speared into the side of Garces's hand. His arm coiled back like a rattlesnake. The man shoved his thumb and finger into his mouth. He sucked on them, looking at his prima with widened, red-rimmed eyes. "Leave my boys to eat their comida. They need their food, Garces." Trino's mother pointed her fork at her husband's cousin. She had taken the chair next to him. "If you feel hungry, then you need to buy carne, not cerveza, when you get a few dollars." Trino wanted to give his mother a high five, but instead began eating the supper she had worked to fix for her family. With the same kind of defiance his mother showed, Trino wanted to stand up to Rosca, tell him that Trino Olivares was no squealer. If Trino could just keep out of reach till the heat was off, maybe Rosca would see that for himself. There were few places where Rosca wouldn't find him. He had lucked out today when he found the bookstore, and until he found a better option, it still might be the best place to hang out. What would he tell the book lady? Another book report? Even though his stomach was getting full, Trino's head felt like he was running on empty.